Before we get started, I need to make this very clear. Everything I'm about to say is alleged based on public commentary, social media behavior, and my personal opinion. This video is created strictly for entertainment and discussion purposes only. Nothing in this video is presented as verified fact, and nothing here is intended to harm or personally target anyone involved. With that being said, let's get into it, because this situation involving Claressa Shields and Papoose is becoming one of those stories that simply refuses to die, no matter how many times people say they're done talking about it. What's important to remember here is that this situation did not originally start with Claressa Shields. The initial tension was between Papoose and 50 Cent. Papoose responded publicly to 50 Cent, and at that point the issue was still contained within hip-hop discourse. However, once Claressa Shields stepped into the situation, everything shifted. Whether intentional or not, her involvement escalated the conversation, widened the audience, and transformed what was once a rap back and forth into a much larger public spectacle involving boxing, celebrity relationships, and social media behavior. Instead of addressing 50 Cent directly and clearly, Papoose's response strategy raised eyebrows. He leaned into AI-generated videos, visual gimmicks, and image-focused posts, which many people interpreted as deflection rather than confrontation. There was also a noticeable emphasis on his personal appearance, particularly his hairline, which became a recurring talking point online. For a lot of viewers, this made it feel as though the real issue was being avoided entirely. Then, suddenly, Papoose disappeared. No clarification, no follow-up, no escalation, just silence. And that silence is important, because once Papoose vanished from social media, Claressa Shields was left standing alone in the middle of a situation she didn't originally start, but had fully inserted herself into. From that moment forward, she became the primary voice responding to criticism, defending positions, and engaging with detractors. Since Papoose's disappearance, Claressa Shields has been the one actively going back and forth with critics, commentators, and public figures. She recently revisited older controversies by collaborating on a joint post with the Jasmine brand, specifically rehashing the alleged anti-blackness tweets that had circulated previously. She also reposted Instagram stories showing public support from fans, including comments from Carson Blue, seemingly to reinforce the idea that she is being unfairly targeted. Now, here's where things get complicated. There is a growing narrative online suggesting that Claressa Shields is being attacked purely because she is a black woman. While that argument exists, I want to be very clear about my personal observation. The majority of criticism I've seen does not center on her race or her appearance. Instead, it focuses on her behavior, her responses, and the way she handles public conflict. That distinction matters, because when someone is a public figure, especially one as accomplished as Claressa Shields, people are going to scrutinize how they carry themselves just as much as what they've achieved. And in Claressa's case, several past incidents have resurfaced, creating a pattern that makes people uncomfortable. One of the earliest flashpoints was her back and forth with Laila Ali, which many viewers felt crossed the line from competitive banter into something unnecessarily disrespectful. Instead of elevating the sport, people felt it brought down the conversation, particularly given Laila Ali's legacy and position within boxing history. Then there was the toy drive controversy, a situation where children allegedly did not receive promised toys due to an issue between Claressa and a child's mother. What made this especially sensitive is that the mother involved was also a black woman, which complicated claims that criticism toward Claressa was rooted solely in misogynoir or racial bias. For many observers, this incident raised concerns about accountability and professionalism. Add to that the ongoing tension involving Papoose and Remy Ma, and suddenly a much bigger question emerges. Why does Claressa Shields' public narrative now revolve so heavily around her relationship with Papoose? Claressa Shields is one of the most decorated female boxers of all time. Olympic gold medals, world championships, historic achievements. And yet, right now, much of the public conversation about her has very little to do with boxing. Instead, it centers on Papoose. People are asking why he seems to dominate her public identity at this stage of her career. Why does every controversy somehow loop back to him? And why does it feel like this entire situation is being framed as a moment aimed at Remy Ma rather than something that organically emerged? According to Remy Ma's claims, Papoose was allegedly attempting to keep his relationship with Claressa hidden until Remy herself exposed it. Remy alleged that Papoose was sleeping on her couch, falling asleep on the phone with Claressa, and engaging in behavior that suggested overlapping emotional entanglements. She also claimed that Claressa was the one pushing for the relationship to go public. Once those allegations surfaced, the narrative changed dramatically. According to that version of events, Claressa Shields wanted a full public rollout. Red carpets, BET Awards appearances, ringside visibility, cameras, exposure, celebrity treatment. And to be fair, there's nothing inherently wrong with wanting visibility, especially in a sport where women often struggle for equal recognition. However, the contradiction people point out is this. While Claressa appears to want the spotlight, she also seems to want strict control over the narrative. When the attention turns negative, her reactions online are often emotional, defensive, and immediate. She frequently interprets criticism as personal attacks rather than feedback on behavior. What's interesting is how she reacts to older images resurfacing. Photos from her Olympic days or the ESPN body issue are sometimes framed by her as shade, yet she reposts those same images herself, especially now, as she's openly acknowledged being viral for over 40 days. That acknowledgement alone shows awareness of the algorithm, awareness that controversy drives engagement, awareness that attention, good or bad, keeps her relevant. Now let's talk about the claims that really escalated everything. According to Tasha K., she shared what she described as exclusive information, alleging that Papoose, whose legal name is Willie Mackey, owes a significant amount of money in unpaid federal tax liens dating back to 2012. Tasha K. claimed that the amount exceeded $300,000 and emphasized repeatedly that the information was alleged and based on public records filed in New York. Screenshots were shared showing a notice of federal tax lien. However, the actual amount visible in the documents appeared closer to $182,000, which raises questions about whether additional liens exist beyond what was shown. Regardless of the exact number, the implication is serious. Owing 6 figures in unpaid taxes over a decade would explain a lot about Papoose's behavior, including his sudden disappearance from the 50 Cent situation. It also raises the possibility that stepping away wasn't about maturity or strategy, but about avoiding deeper scrutiny. If these allegations were to hold any truth at all, they would also raise questions about Claressa Shields' role in Papoose's life right now. Remy Ma previously claimed that during their relationship, Papoose allegedly stopped contributing to household expenses and even pawned her jewelry. Again, those are Remy's claims, not proven facts, but they add context to the speculation. People are now asking whether Claressa Shields has become Papoose's primary source of financial stability. Could that explain why he appears so deeply embedded in her career, why he inserts himself into boxing spaces, why there's talk of record deals, rap aspirations, and cross-industry branding? And if that's the case, is this relationship actually benefiting Claressa, or is it quietly damaging her brand? As if all of that weren't enough, Claressa Shields is now publicly clashing with her upcoming opponent, Franchon Crews-Dezurn, ahead of their scheduled fight on February 22nd. Franchon made a statement that struck a nerve. She said that while she may not be able to beat the media machine behind everything, she can beat Claressa Shields in the ring. She emphasized her professionalism, her integrity, and her refusal to engage in negativity for attention. She also stressed that boxing is something you can't fake. However, As we sit here nearing the end of the year, it's hard not to feel like this entire situation has been dragged out far longer than necessary. By next September, it will officially be 2 years since many of these conversations first started circulating publicly. 2 years. In internet time, that's ancient history. Most controversies don't survive 2 weeks, let alone 2 full years. And yet, here we are, still talking about it. That's what's frustrating for so many people watching from the outside. The perception is that everyone has moved on. The separation happened, new relationships allegedly happened, life continued. Claressa appears happy, Papoose appears content. So why does this still feel unresolved? Why does it still feel tense, awkward, and emotionally charged? That's where the question of whether things are truly cordial comes in, because there's a big difference between silence and peace. There's also a difference between moving on privately and constantly hinting at unresolved feelings publicly. And once social media becomes the stage, things stop being quiet and start becoming performative. That's why many viewers described the public exchanges as corny, not because emotions aren't real, but because social media turns private issues into public spectacles. Once it becomes content, it becomes a circus, and no one really wins in a circus. One of the biggest misconceptions about this entire situation is that Claressa Shields started it. She didn't. In fact, this wasn't even her issue to begin with. Originally, the tension existed between Papoose and 50 Cent. What exactly triggered the back and forth depends on who you ask, but what we do know is that words were exchanged publicly, energy shifted, and attention followed. Instead of addressing 50 Cent directly in a traditional way, through a clear statement, interview, or even a diss record, Papoose made an unexpected move. He began posting AI-generated videos, which confused a lot of people watching the situation unfold. Rather than clarifying anything, the content raised more questions and shifted focus away from the actual issue. At the same time, viewers noticed something else. Papoose seemed far more focused on maintaining his online image than resolving the conflict. There was attention on his appearance, his branding, his persona, and his social media presence. To some, it felt like optics mattered more than substance. And then, just as suddenly as the situation escalated, he disappeared. Papoose's disappearance from social media changed everything. His silence left a noticeable gap, especially since the situation was still very much active in the public eye. No follow-ups, no clarifications, no defense. That silence effectively placed Claressa Shields in the middle of everything. From that point forward, she became the one posting, she became the one responding, she became the one clapping back, addressing narratives, defending herself, and at times defending Papoose as well. While he stepped away from the conversation, she leaned into it. This is where public perception began to shift. People started asking why Claressa, an elite athlete with a historic career, was now positioned as the front-facing figure in drama that originally had nothing to do with her. Some felt she was standing 10 toes down for her relationship. Others felt she was being left exposed. Recently, Claressa shared a joint post with Jasmine Brand, bringing attention back to old tweets that referenced an alleged anti-blackness conversation. This wasn't new information, but resurfacing it reignited discussions that many felt had already been settled. At the same time, she reposted Instagram stories showing support from fans, including messages from Carson Blue and others who praised her resilience and confidence. The support was loud, visible, and intentional. And to be fair, she did receive a lot of encouragement. Many fans defended her, applauded her strength, and rallied behind her as a Black woman navigating public scrutiny. But support didn't erase criticism. There's an important distinction that needs to be made here. The criticism Claressa Shields is facing is not solely about her being a Black woman, and it's not primarily about her physical appearance. While misogyny and bias absolutely exist online, most of the criticism in this situation has focused on behavior. People have pointed to multiple moments that, when viewed together, created discomfort. There was the public back and forth with Lila Ailey, where many felt Clarissa's responses came across as unnecessarily aggressive rather than confident. Then there was the toy drive controversy, where children allegedly didn't receive promised toys due to a disagreement between Claressa and a child's mother, who was also a Black woman. Add to that the ongoing subliminal posts, captions, and interactions that many believe involve Remy Ma, and suddenly the conversation expands beyond one isolated incident. Individually, these situations might be forgivable. Collectively, they form a pattern that people feel entitled to question. This is where the conversation gets uncomfortable, because it forces people to confront a hard truth. Claressa Shields is one of the most accomplished female boxers of all time. She is a multiple-time world champion, an Olympic gold medalist, and a pioneer in women's boxing. Her resume speaks for itself. So why does it feel like her public identity has shifted away from her achievements and toward relationship drama? Why does it feel like conversations about her greatness are being drowned out by discussions about Papoose, Remy Ma, and social media feuds? That's the part that frustrates many longtime supporters. They don't want her legacy rewritten by controversy. They want her remembered for history-making moments in the ring, not Instagram captions. According to public statements, Papoose, legally Willie Mackey, allegedly owes significant unpaid federal taxes dating back to 2012. Screenshots circulating online suggest liens totaling around $182,000, though some claim the amount could be higher. If true, that introduces an entirely different layer to the conversation. Financial pressure changes behavior. It affects decision-making. It can also explain why someone might want to stay out of the spotlight. Claressa immediately clapped back, dismissing Franchon's claims and asserting her dominance. What followed was a rapid-fire exchange of insults, medal comparisons, accusations of favoritism, and dismissive comments that quickly spiraled into chaos. At one point, Claressa mocked Franchon for winning silver medals, stating that she only deals in gold. Franchon implied that favoritism within amateur boxing may have played a role in past outcomes, a very serious implication that opens up an entirely separate conversation about integrity in sports. Now, to be fair, some of this is almost certainly promotional. Fight promotion thrives on tension. Rivalries sell tickets. Trash talk creates buzz. But there's a line, and many feel that line is being crossed. Claressa Shields is already under intense scrutiny for her online behavior. Adding more public conflict only amplifies that scrutiny. When you're constantly in the headlines for controversy, people stop focusing on your talent and start focusing on your temperament. And when fight night arrives, none of the online arguments will matter. The ring will decide everything. So here's where I want to leave it, with questions. If Papoose does owe significant back taxes, would that explain his sudden silence and his deep attachment to Claressa's success? If Claressa is being positioned as a financial or branding opportunity rather than a partner, what does that mean for her future? And if this entire situation is, as Tasha K suggested, an alleged scheme, whether orchestrated or opportunistic, then who really benefits from all this chaos? Because from the outside looking in, Claressa Shields' legacy deserves better than being overshadowed by controversy